So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Asian Exporters Chamber of Commerce and Industry International Arbitration Center, authorized by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. I am Advocate Rohini, representing the legal wing of ACCI, and joining with me this session, Ms. Swarnalata, Executive Director of ACCI, and who will be assisting in facilitating today's discussion. So, under the esteemed leadership of our Honorable Board Chairman, Mr. Jahir Bukhari, ACCA has been at the forefront of empowering exporters, promoting international trade, and offering legal support to businesses. It's my privilege to host this AMA session on the topic International Arbitration, Key Trends, Challenges, and Innovations for Global Traders. Today, we have Advocate Kushma Khan, solicitor, arbitrator, and advocate on record at Supreme Court of India, and also she is empaneled as an arbitrator with AECCA IAC. With over 30 years of legal expertise and a seasoned litigator and a highly regarded arbitrator with an extensive experience in commercial arbitration, corporate law, insolvency, banking disputes, she has represented high-profile clients across various judicial and arbitral forums, including Bombay High Court, NCLT, DRT, and Supreme Court of India. And she is also a fellow at the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, London, and an empaneled arbitrator with multiple international dispute resolution institutions, including Geneva International Dispute Resolution Institute and the Standing Committee of Public Sector Enterprises. And her contributions to the field of arbitration and international legal practice have earned her multiple recognition, including Legal Era Excellence Award and the Divorce Excellence Award for her legal and compliance. Beyond her legal practice, she is actively engaged in mentoring startups, supporting corporate governance, and advocating for women empowerment in legal and business sector. Ma'am, it's our honor to have you with us today. Next, our Executive Director, Ms. Swarnalata, will give you an introduction about the ACCA International Arbitration Center.
Thank you, Rohini, and hello, ma'am.
Hello,
First of all, please accept my sincere thanks for joining us today. And on behalf of AECCI management, I welcome you here for Ask Me Anything session.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so dear audience, before we dive into Ask Me Anything session, let me briefly introduce you all to the AECCI and its International Arbitration Center. Asian Exporter Chamber of Commerce and Industry. This is a prominent chamber based in Mumbai, Maharashtra, and we are proudly recognized by Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. Proactively, we are working to promote the international trade. Our mission is to help the importers and exporters. We are here to help them in handling their day-to-day challenges of business and trade. We, to serve this purpose, to help the exporters and importers, we have incepted various wings in our chambers, like we are having business advice wing, we are having export advice wing, women wing, sports wing, so many wings. This particular program, today's Ask Me Anything session, is being organized under our legal wing. Our advocate Rohini, she is looking after the legal wing, and under her, this program is being organized. So at ACCI, we are committed to protect and promote the fair trade practices. And for that, we keep implementing various initiatives, various activities we keep organizing just to make the people familiar with the trade practices, policies, procedures, and of course, one major challenge that is the trade disputes. So how to handle the trade dispute. And today, I would be talking about the International Arbitration Center. That is one of our major, you would say, initiatives. So this was incepted in 2019, and since 2023, we are operational. We are having highly designated advocates and judges empaneled with this arbitration center. So a purpose of our International Arbitration Center is not just to resolve your trade disputes, rather to help you to strengthen the business ties with your counterpart. Today, we are having esteemed advocate, our advocate Kushnuma Khan with us. With her rich experience and knowledge, will be knowing about the role of arbitration in Indian business and international business. So before taking much time, I would like to invite back Rohini to take the session ahead. Rohini, please.
Thank you, ma'am, for the good introduction about IAC.
Thank you so much, both of you, for inviting me for this session.
It's our pleasure, ma'am.
Thank you.
So this session is specially designed for our trained members who seek clarity on international arbitration, including key trends, challenges, and innovations in global trade dispute resolution. Through this discussion, we aim to address your concerns, provide your expert insight, and enhance your understanding of the evolving legal frameworks governing international arbitration. So without delay, let's begin with our first query. So, ma'am, given your extensive experience in arbitration and commercial disputes, what are the key advantages of arbitration over traditional litigation for international traders?
Yeah. When I talk about traditional litigation, be it in India or anywhere abroad outside India, the first thing which will be encountered is that you have to follow the strict court procedures. You don't have a choice over it. Whatever is the rules or the laws or the framework guidelines provided by giving jurisdiction of any court, you have to follow that. You don't have a choice to choose a judge who will be hearing your matter. So that's the first difficulty, and you don't even know that how much time the court is going to take to complete your case. So timeline is again the second difficulty. Then comes the cost. The cost is again a difficulty because the number of years a case in a court gets prolonged, that's the time involved for a litigator to spend over the legal fees, legal cost of the advocates, cost in the court, So the cost is another factor which is also to the disadvantage of a trader. Whereas when you see an arbitration, in an arbitration, there are multiple benefits which a person gets. Where if he comes to if there's any case when he has to file a case for recovery of his monies. So when we talk about exports, the main problem comes with an exporter is to recover his monies from an exporter when he finds it difficult. So then if there is an arbitration clause, so the advantages which we'll have is this one, that there is a neutrality. So when I talk about neutrality, it means that it allows the party to appoint a neutral person to act as an arbitrator. So that the arbitrator may not be related to him. He may be anybody from any sector, but the one who is more competent with a case. So that is the benefit. So if he knows that, okay, if he approaches any institution and it is an institutional arbitration and there is a particular dispute which he has. So obviously in an institution there are several arbitrators who are empaneled, and then he comes to know and that he's given a list and there is a choice which he can make of an arbitrator whom he gets a confident that the particular arbitrator would be in complete know of the subject, or he may have certain experience in that subject, or an arbitrational experience he must be having in that subject, and then that becomes a plus point for him to appoint a neutral arbitrator. So I would just share with in briefly a judgment with you. So that was a judgment of Supreme Court, I think in 2019 or 20. That judgment had come of Supreme Court in Shapurji Palanji case, where the public sector, one of the public sector undertaking, has this clause in the arbitration to appoint an arbitrator from one of the directors on their board. So then the aggrieved party approached the court and they point out that how can it be then the concept of neutrality fails if it is named in the arbitrator, and the person who's named in the arbitrator is not somebody who's unknown to both the parties, but he is a person who will always be favoring and he is favorite to one of the parties, and or whenever award is passed, that will be to the benefit of the successor party. So then Supreme Court ruled out that arbitrator has to be neutral. The person choice will be a neutral choice, and you cannot have the arbitrator, even the PSUs will not have the arbitrator appointed from within their forum. or
Right.
somebody who is on the employment or who is on the of an executive position.
Right.
So this this concept has now been used widely in our country, in India, and arbitration also. In addition to the arbitration, what is being happening across the world. Now, the second is the flexibility. The flexibility is one important point, that you are always flexible of your time, that what time, even the arbitrators and the clients are at time that, okay, this time will be suitable, of course, with the consideration and subject to approval of the arbitrator and with the consent of the both the parties. So they can have their own timings. They can have the schedule fixed by the arbitrator. Arbitrator fixes the schedule concerning the availability or convenience of the parties. So then this is one of the aspect which is also important. The third and the most important is the confidentiality. So whatever award is passed, whatever pleadings are taking place, whatever both the parties argue or put the evidence before the arbitrator, that is not made public. So the award which is passed is not a public. It is not on a public domain. It doesn't become available to the eyes of the public. So it is very, very private to the parties who are in arbitration, and both the parties being exclusively into the arbitration, then there is more impact of confidentiality. The pleadings which are taken place, the information which is being passed by both the parties to the arbitrators is completely secured, and there is a level of confidentiality. The third is the execution of the award, which is the key point of it. Now, take an example that if a judgment is passed by an Indian court, which has to be executed within a jurisdiction of a court which is a foreign court. Now, that judgment, which is passed by the Indian court, can only be executed if there is a treaty between India and the reciprocating country for execution of the judgment. And if there is no treaty between the two, that judgment cannot be executed, and the future of the judgment or the fate of the judgment will then be at the mercy of the rules and laws which are available in that particular jurisdiction. Contra to this, in an arbitration, there are 107 countries which are signatory to New York Convention. So all arbitration awards which are passed between between several other countries within the jurisdiction of other countries, they can be executed in their reciprocating country. Now suppose there is a dispute between an Indian and a German, and the arbitration clause says that, okay, the jurisdiction of German court or the jurisdiction of Indian court will have the control or will govern this arbitration. So therefore, if the award is passed by virtue of the convention, if suppose the Indian party, if the governing law is India, then Indian courts will have the jurisdiction to execute that award. And if the governing laws of German, then the German court will have the power or the jurisdiction to execute that award.
Right.
So that this convention is like has paved the way so well for arbitration, that arbitration in international transaction or transnational business is gaining more and more foundation, and it's getting more and more support, and people are recognizing it. So it is getting more recognition now. There are several. If you find now the number of arbitrators that were previously and the number of arbitrators are now, that is huge. So
Yes,
in
it's
it is increased every day. It is increasing, because every arbitrator is specializing in some field or the other, and either they are lawyers or they are judges, retired judges, or they are some expert on some field, and they are welcomed with so many institutions which are there worldwide. So it becomes more easier for a person to locate the arbitrator of his choice or whom he has confidence who will be able to handle his case or give a judgment which will be related to the issues which dispute which are in the arbitration.
Mhm.
So, and the efficiency, yes, because now if you see the courts are always burdened with so many matters every day that hardly they get time to finalize a particular matter in a day. There are so many cases also pending because of this, because our courts are not able to finalize the cases or not hear the cases properly. But when you talk about arbitration, a particular arbitration, it is before a set of judges, a set of arbitrators, maybe a single arbitrator or a sole arbitrator between two parties. And now, even if you see that Indian arbitration also specifies a particular timeline for completion of the arbitrator, which is not more than 1 year. So
1 year, right?
in every country, wherever arbitration act is applicable, with all the model laws or the New York Convention or that whichever ways they may have accepted the arbitration, everybody is looking into this possibility that they have to make the arbitration a fit case, a fit procedure to be followed for resolution of the cases within a given timeline. So there is a set time which is provided now in arbitration that within this time the arbitration has to get over. So there is an efficiency which comes in because everybody has to play their part within time efficiently, and even the judges are more efficient because there is only one case that they are hearing to it. The arbitrators don't have to listen to have to attend to too many cases, unlike the judges of the court.
Right.
So these are the major differences which one can see.
And ma'am, if someone doesn't like honor this timeline of 1 year, then
if then first, if you see, now there are timelines which have been broken. First timeline is 6 months, then 6 months, then 6 months. So maximum it can be 6 months. So first timeline, 6 months. If you have not completed your arbitration within 6 months, which is the set timeline, you can, with the consent of the other party, the arbitrator will have the powers to extend for further 6 months. Now, if this 6 months is the further 6 months, which is 6 to 6, 6 plus 6 becomes 1 year. Now, if that 1 year timeline is not completed, then Section 29A of the Arbitration Act has the provision of extension of the timeline through the permission of the court. So you have to file an application to the court, and the court will then grant extension of further 6 months. So, but that 6 months should not be extended unless there is a extraordinary circumstances which you have to prove to the court, that because of which you could not complete in the extended timeline of 6 months.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for highlighting the key benefits of arbitration, such as flexibility, confidentiality, and the enforceability. It is clear that the arbitration provides international traders with a faster and more efficient alternative to litigation.
Yes.
So, yes. So, moving to my next one, ma'am. So, how do cultural differences and different legal systems create challenges in drafting contracts in international trade, and how businesses can address these challenges?
Yes. So this is a very, very vital question that you have asked me when it comes to transnational business. So the first thing is this, if somebody in India is wanting to do a business in China or in Sri Lanka or any part, the language is the biggest difference which comes.
Right.
So, so the language which is spoken in the other country and the language which is spoken in India, even in India, if you find there are several states which speaks several other languages, but thankfully to our, the universal language Hindi, universal means universal to India, the Hindi language that we can understand at least the language that if somebody speaks to us. So language is the biggest barrier. Which is one of the thing which has to be looked into and taken care of. So there are several ambiguities which can creep into. Now, suppose if a document is to be drafted in a Russian language, so or a French language, which is unknown to an Indian.
Yes.
So when you want to translate it, the translator whom you have approached to translate the French or German or Russian, whichever language, may not be 100% conversant with the language.
Yes.
There may be some ambiguities or loopholes which will be there into the document. So that is first thing which you have to identify. Now, what happens is, this is very common in amongst our Indian businessmen, that the one thing which they don't want to adhere to is taking a legal help or legal support. So when you are into a transnational business with various countries, you as an exporter, it is very important that you have a local lawyer in whichever country you are dealing with, to appoint a local lawyer who would be able to understand the language and make you understand that what is there in your contract. He will be the right person. So once he explains to you, because being appointed as your counsel, he is obligated and he has that burden, you being his client, to protect your interest. So then you can be rest assured that your local lawyer, whomever you appoint, is doing the right job for you, and he is making you aware of the contracts and the clauses of the contract. Then, of course, it is always important for you to discuss these clauses back home with your legal advisor, whoever you have in your company or otherwise, that these clauses are there in the contract. Of course, the person has to be well-versed, well-conversant and well-versed with the transactional laws, to understand that what can be better for the client if he enters into a particular contract, how best it is considering the Indian laws and how best it is considering the laws outside. Now everything is online, so it is just a click of a button and you get all the laws everywhere.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
it doesn't
Easy to
become,
access.
yeah, it is easy to access. So it doesn't become that difficult. But yes, the legal terminology is a legal terminology which a layman or any common man would find it difficult to understand. So it is always advisable first to appoint a lawyer, both in the local area where you are, local jurisdiction where you are going to do your business, to understand the contract, the language of the contract, the terms of the contract. And then back home, you can have a lawyer who understands the transnational business and who can explain you the pros and cons of those terms, which you have been made known by the lawyer over there. So this is one. Then second is the divergent legal system. So now the legal system in India for contract may be a different in some other country. Now for French is a civil code, civil jurisdiction. They mostly follow the civil law. In India, it is a common law. Now in London, it is again a common law. So when you are dealing with two different law, even in Dubai, it is a UAE, it is a civil law. So when you are dealing with two different countries having different scope of laws, then it is important to understand. So it becomes difficult for you. You as a businessman will not have that acumen to understand the difference between a common law and a civil law.
Right.
And every law and common law has a different area of practice. Civil law has a different area of practice. So then one needs to understand. So therefore, it is important again you need assistance of a lawyer to guide you and assist you on that. The other is now there are even in when you talk about dispute resolution, so there are several multi-tier dispute resolution, like negotiation is there, conciliation
Right.
is there, mediation is there, arbitration is there. So it's like that. Now there may be certain jurisdiction who may be only be more conversant or more acceptable to conciliation, mediation, or negotiation than arbitration. They may not be very conversant, or they may not be very acceptable to arbitration. So therefore, you have to understand that what jurisdiction will be acceptable to what. So when you draft, considering those differences, several differences in contract, then you have to draft a multi-tier arbitration clause, a dispute resolution clause, which will cover your negotiation, which will cover your conciliation, mediation, and also then in the last, the arbitration. So you have to have that. And secondly, it's important that your governing laws has to be important, and the seat is very important. Venue and seat, they're two different things. Venue is you can have arbitration anywhere with
Right.
your in several places, but seat is a seat which will govern the laws. The governing laws is the seat of the arbitration.
Okay.
So these are the important things which need to take place, which have to be considered at the time when you are drafting a contract.
Can venue and seats differ? Can these be different?
Yes, of course, why not?
Okay.
Venue is the venue which the parties or the arbitrator decide where the meetings of the arbitration can be conducted.
Okay.
But venue, that is the venue. But seat is the seat which will give you the governing laws, the jurisdiction of the courts.
Okay, fine.
They can be same, they can be different, but once a seat has been decided, that cannot change.
Okay.
But venue is absolutely with the discretion of the parties and the arbitrator. Therefore, the parties are called to be the master of the bosses and the masters of the arbitration.
Right.
Right.
And one thing more, ma'am, you insisted on having foreign lawyers in
Yeah.
whichever country you are doing the trade. So this is very important. Recently, we have come up with one other initiative. We have signed a cooperation agreement with with experts from 35 countries. And most of them are from the legal field. You can say legal experts.
Yeah.
Many times when we conduct the B2B meets for our people is with these legal experts,
Yeah.
some of Indian businesses, they come up with these queries, ma'am, what we have to do with the legal people, why we should go
Yes.
meet them. So this is very important. You have raised a very good point here. This I would like to communicate to all my people.
Thank you so much.
Important.
Yeah, no, it is very important
Yeah.
because I do transnational businesses, so I understand there is a concept of as I told you, we Indians, the businessman will not save on anything, but he will always try to be saving and be miser when it comes to legal.
Legal, right.
So that is the mindset,
Right.
and especially when we talk about MSMEs, so they have this, okay,
Yes,
we don't need it.
We don't need
Right.
Mutually, we have been doing business for long. It is mutually, and that is not required. That is not needed. It is just verbal. All verbal, nothing required. And when they fall into problem, then you ask them, oh, we never did this. We didn't read that. We were not aware because everything was mutual. It was the business was having from so many years. We had this relationship. It was very nice. But then, boss, business is business. Relation is relation.
Yeah,
So you have to keep two things separately. You can't mix up the relation and the business together. Then you are not good businessman.
Right.
So you have to keep two things separate.
Right, ma'am. Recently, Government of India had come up with this 45 days payment rule for MSMEs. That time also the people were objecting, though if they think of the long term, it is going to be very, very beneficial for them. So this is how it goes, MSMEs.
So I know we have little time, but this is very important when we speak of MSME. I'll tell you one more thing, that for MSMEs, Niti Aayog, there is a circular of Niti Aayog.
Right.
And I'm sure you may be aware of it. And it says that if there is any arbitration or there is any dispute, arbitral dispute or an MSME dispute which is happening, then you can recover certain portion of your money. You can make the Niti Aayog can give you that payment will be the buyer has to make that payment of certain percentage against a bank guarantee. You have to put a bank guarantee for that much of amount, but you get that payment. So when you get that payment in hand, obviously it releases your burden to some extent. You only have to put a bank guarantee. If your case is good, then you are already getting 75% immediately when they go to challenge your award. Plus for interest, either you can take interest and then keep on refurbing an addition to that bank guarantee, or if you don't want, then let just bank the guarantee and the interest be there as it is.
Right.
So,
Right,
but
right, right.
you are free to do your business.
Yes.
Hmm.
Finally, you have liquidity to go for.
You have your liquidity. Yes, you have your business to do.
Right, right. So,
So that is a crucial point, ma'am, because this understanding the cultural and legal diversity,
Yes,
it is
yes.
very essential in drafting this effective international contracts. And ma'am, moving to the next question, that with the rise of digitalization in arbitration, including online dispute resolution, how do you see technology shaping in future international arbitration? And what should business prepare for this?
Now, already COVID has given us, COVID was a time when everybody across the world digitized themselves.
Right.
So everybody went online, doing meetings, doing hearings, and then we realized, oh my God, such situations uh, can come across any time. And
Right.
every situation is a mother of some convention.
right.
So that the COVID was the mother of invention of this digitization, I would say, where everybody thought that, okay, we have to go online.
Online.
So now there are
Mhm.
ODRs which are happening. There are platforms who are conducting online arbitration. In fact, we are. I always love to have it physically, but we do many arbitrations, and most of the arbitrators they prefer doing arbitration online. So
Right.
many of the arbitration that we are doing are all online.
Yes.
So witness examination is online, hearings are online, everything is on.
Right.
That is one important thing which has happened, which is, I would say, it is saving so much of time of travel.
Right.
The cost, when we talk about efficiency of cost, this is something which has reduced the costing so much. You are not required to travel anywhere. Your seat may be at certain place, but this becomes your venue.
Yes.
Hmm. And it is
So
convenient also for
it is
many of.
very convenient. So the arbitrators from across the globe can be on one platform. The parties from across the globe, they can be on one platform disputing and arguing, and the arbitrator anywhere he is sitting, he is there available.
Yes. Yes.
So digitization is the one best thing which happened during COVID and which have been taken up so, I mean, it has been taken so substantially by everybody. In fact, by all this, by all the legal system. In fact, the courts and the judiciaries have also converting themselves into online hearing. Both of you, I'm thinking, being from legal profession, would know that many of now you don't have to travel to Chennai to do a hearing. You will sit
Right.
here online, link, and do your hearing. And
Right. Right. Right.
and the best is the quality of the video and the quality of the mic is so fantastic.
Yes.
You can hear it so well. Earlier when it started, it was, it was very bad, but now it has improved so much.
Yes.
So this is one thing. The second thing is the way AI has taken up.
Hmm. Right.
So the automation of documents that has been happening, you just click and there is a document. But I would just suggest that you can get a format of the document.
Right.
Everything what you required will not be there.
Yes.
Every document has to be treated with the facts and circumstances and with the goals, with the ideas of the parties, the terms and conditions that has been involved between them. So
Right.
that format which you get from an AI is completely insufficient. So when you draft a document now, the clients feel very happy. They say, "Oh, we get everything online. Draft, just bring the draft, fill it up, and give it." But that's not the correct. The draft
Yes.
has to be dealt with. Again, every time when you do a business, you need the assistance, as you need the assistance of a chartered accountant, you need the assistance of a lawyer
Right.
to simplify your legal issues.
Yes.
So that is important. I have been, sometimes I argue with my clients and I have been speaking on the platform that if you fall ill, you go to the doctor and you go to the best of the doctor. You pay the best of the amount. You want best of the hospital because that is something concerning your life. You're so you're so cautious about not losing the life that you want to give the best to it. Similarly, your business is a part of your life. So why don't you think of giving it the best of it? So if you don't give the best of it someday or the other, how much it will survive on a ventilator? It has to shut.
It has to be.
Why do
Right.
you want to come to that moment when it gets shut?
Yeah,
So take a visible or wise step
right.
to appoint the best of the best professionals for yourself, as you appoint the best of the best doctors for yourself. Even today, people are so conscious about their health. They need to have best gyms, best trainers, because they are so
Right.
conscious about their bones and muscles and the body and health and everything.
Well,
Why,
yes.
why not for your businesses?
Yes.
Businesses, this is so important because the money is being generated, which is helping you in keeping your health
Yes. Right.
Right.
and everything else that you want in life.
Mhm.
So that is the most crucial part of it, of your life. So
Yes.
that's one.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
You were
It's
talking about, ma'am, before this COVID era, one of the case had come to us. The gentleman, he was from South Africa, and let me tell you, for 3 meetings, he had to travel all the way from South Africa to India for the
Okay.
trade dispute only. So now I can understand the value of this
Yes,
digitization.
absolutely.
He
Yes,
was around 80
absolutely.
years old.
Absolutely, madam. Absolutely.
so the
And
COVID has impacted in a good way also for
yes,
this
yes,
audience.
Yeah. All that period of 1 year, what was spent.
yes,
Mm.
So that 1 year has given, I mean, so much of knowledge to all of us. Even, people who were so who used to dislike using a phone or a laptop or a
yeah,
iPad. There was always this that, oh my God, the children have become a nuisance and it is being spoiling the children by using the mobile phone and using the laptop. The children are using, but when the COVID came, I think the elders I found were more on the social, I
yes,
mean, these
Mm.
platforms,
Yes.
because they found themselves so discommunicated and disconnected with their people.
Yes.
This was the
Right.
only way when they could connect to their people and use. And if somebody is not using, they would call up and say, "Oh, use this. I'm sending you link. Join it. We'll talk." So it kept
Right.
them going, and it kept them. That connection was never lost. So they always felt that connection.
right. Very closely, we have experienced this transition actually.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
Each one of
It's
us.
Yeah,
yes.
Rohini, please go ahead.
Yes, it's fascinating to see how the technology highlights the future direction of arbitration, and not only in arbitration, for our litigation and for all
Yeah.
others. So, moving to my last question, ma'am. So, in light of the global economic sanctions, how can business navigate global international arbitration to ensure a smooth dispute resolution, maintaining a strong broader trade relationship?
See, as you have rightly said that today the economic conditions worldwide are changing every time, and there are a lot of things which are happening across the globe. Many of the things we may know, many of the things we may not know. But now, if I go ahead a step further and talk about, recently, after the new president of America coming in, the kind of changes and the kind of sanctions and restrictions that he has been trying to impose or imposed in so many countries, including India,
Yes,
where do we see the business going?
I really, I'm so
So
worried about this.
we are so worried, everyone, including me, myself, we are so worried. Where do we go? Now,
Yes,
when you sit down to draft a transaction, how do you fit all these things into it? All the while, when the business is going so well, all of a sudden you have these restrictions being imposed, these tariffs being imposed. You
right.
know, I mean,
Yeah, right.
it's whether the kind of a business which your client is doing, how is he going to cope up? Whether these restrictions are implicated on him also in his nature of business that he do, or what will be the rate of tariff when it goes. So
Yes,
the biggest question is this today: the amount of expenses that he's going to incur in an international business.
right.
Right.
Not only it will be the tariff, so then this is a chain which get linked. If the tariff gets increased, the inco terms, inco systems get in, the shipping cost, the CIF,
Right.
the FOB all gets increased. The
Yes,
cost
Right.
of the petrol gets increased, the diesel gets increased, the electricity gets increased in his home country also.
yes,
So
right.
how is he
Right.
going to how is he going to cope up all that?
Right, right.
So that's the
It will
major
impact.
issue. That's a major issue with only by at the time will tell us how we have to resolve this.
Right.
At the moment, all of us have to just wait and watch, or we have to start This is the ground level time when we have to start focusing more on these things to develop the ideas or formulate a system where we can help our clients, or we can help your members, in fact, all the export members who are there,
Right.
how we can
Right.
help them. Then the second important point is this: whenever you enter into a business with any counterpart abroad, the first thing is important is this: you do a thorough due diligence. How the financial due diligence of that person is very important. So when you are importing, what amount he's importing, whether he has that capacity to take what, then you have to independently appoint somebody over there. I mean, it may be a little costlier, but it is better to better precaution is better, every time.
Every time, right.
So when we say the precaution is better than cure, so it is also applicable in your business.
Yes.
Right.
So then you have to take those precautions to employ some legal advisors, local advisors, or if you have a local agencies over there, to find out the strength of that person in the market.
Right. That is
Whatever he has told you, whether he has that strength, that reputation his company has in that market, or or how many creditors and vendors or debtors he has in the market.
right.
So all these are due diligence which he has to find out before entering into any contract or business. Accordingly, the contract has to be shaped to secure his rights. The third important thing is, if you are entering into arbitration clause, of course you have to find out whether if there is a litigation which takes place. Suppose sometime, what happens, the other side, the person of other jurisdiction, he may be very stringent on not entering into an arbitration clause and going into court governing clause, because he's aware that in an arbitration he may not be successful, and arbitration having its own beauty to do, and he will be more successful, and he will have an upper hand if he has a court jurisdiction or court governing laws in the contract. Because being a local, obviously he will hire the best of the best counsels to address his case, and sometimes you may always see that the courts would always try to help or try to more concern towards their own locals.
Right.
So therefore, it is also important that you have to actually negotiate and argue for your rights. Sometimes, we should not advise clients to be blind enough to enter into any agreement.
Right.
You have to
Right.
use
That
into
is
this
very
thing.
important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Escape clause
Secondly-
must be there. Yes.
Yes. Secondly, given the present times, if you are having any contract, you're entering into any contract, you should always try to take certain advances. Now, how that would work? Absolutely, when you ask any buyer to pay advances, he will be very reluctant to do that, because he may have his own experiences, or he may be not really willing that how the product would go, and he would be paying some advances to you. So therefore, you can ask that please open an escrow account. The advances will be put in escrow account. The moment you get my first lot, that amount I will be reimbursing myself. Yeah, and if
Right.
I'm not able to do that, then that contract itself get cancelled, or you may terminate the contract, and you can take the amount out of the contract escrow account which you have put. So having an escrow account, at least to that extent, you are sending the goods to your client, will secure you your portion of the money which you have put
Right.
into it.
Right.
Yes.
Then from that escrow, the moment you send it, you get the amount back. Now, then you also have to see that the country, how the country in which you are selling your goods or you are exporting your goods, whether that is a reciprocal country, and what is the governmental benefit in India that you are getting. Like there's some duty drawback, there's some inward licenses. What is the benefit that you are getting while you export these goods to that country? And what is the benefit of your goods in that country? Depending upon
Right.
that, there may be some incentives which are government always distributes, or it announces those benefits or incentives. Suppose if you
Yes,
send to a country where sending such goods are not getting you any benefit, then just for the sake of becoming an exporter, you should never go into such an area which is not beneficial to you at all, and you end up into losses than making any good,
Right.
any income out of it. So, and then you
Yes.
should also see that what are the Incoterms which you are going to
That's very important.
imply,
Right.
because Incoterms are
Right.
so important.
So
Sometimes the buyer doesn't just want to have an FOB, he wants to have a CIF. So you have to see that in CIF, what is it that you're losing? And how much cost, and what is the value of your product that on which you are selling, if even if it is at CIF. So whether that is you are able to recover it.
yes.
So all those things are so important when you are to draft a contract.
Right.
Yes, yes. This is very important actually, regarding this, all the strategies which we need to use while enter into or navigate the international business effectively.
Right.
And ma'am, yes, and due to the
And
time limitation,
I just want to tell you one more thing, which you can always,
yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry to interrupt you,
Yes, yes, it's
which you
okay, ma'am.
can, always discuss and apprise your clients that whenever you have an international business or international contract, you should always opt for having an institutional arbitration clause.
Yes. Right. That is very important.
Wherever you, either it should be ICC or CIAC or Dubai or the IFC, whichever, or in India, International Arbitration, wherever you want.
Yes.
But there should be a clause which speaks about institutional arbitration, because then you are more, your expenses are less, you are more comfortable, you know that where the jurisdiction is and how, and it's being handled properly. So
Yes.
all this, and it is an institution which takes care of, there are set rules of each institution
Yes.
by under which the entire process of arbitration takes place.
Right.
So always advise them on this point.
Yeah, ma'am, for this, we are actually running a drive also. After every few days, we do the mass mailing just to, as I said, we are here to promote and protect the fair trade practices. So this is something that we are doing very aggressively. We are sending the emails to people. We are communicating the word to people just to be careful about this. And being an export trainer, ma'am, I would also like to add in your points. You have taken up very good points. Uh, One thing that is very important that is available to us is to opt for the ECGC.
Yes.
ECGC gives a good cover to the people. So
Yes.
I don't know why do people hesitate to go for the ECGC and other whatever options are available to them. So then Incoterms and FTA is something that people in my experience of 25 years, I have seen people who are not aware of, in fact, Incoterms or the
Yes.
FTAs. They are blindly, they are just dealing with any country.
Absolutely.
From wherever they will get an order, they will go to serve that.
Yeah.
And finally, they'll end up with some or other trouble. So thank you, ma'am. This was indeed very insightful session. Yeah, Rohini, please.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
so Lataji, I just want to tell you one more thing, that every month we send out newsletters.
Okay, ma'am.
So
Okay.
if you would permit, then can I send the newsletters to you also, so then you can look into it and you can circulate with
Okay.
your.
We'll be happy to have this, and of course,
Yeah.
we'll be circulating to our people
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. So
Please
then and it's just that to keep them updated. We
Yeah,
also have our
It's very
Insta page and a LinkedIn page, where we keep on posting updates
right.
related
Okay.
to exporters or any community, business community or individual community,
Yes.
Individual masses, anything, whichever, I mean, say some judgment or there's some government rules or guidelines
Yes,
which is
new
come. So we just
policies.
keep on posting those things on
Hmm.
our Insta page and our LinkedIn.
This
So
is done, ma'am.
we can just tag you. So whenever it is the post goes, you can do that. So you can share with me your Insta tag or your LinkedIn tag.
We'll do that.
Yes,
So I
sure,
can
sure,
ask
ma'am.
my
We'll do
team
that.
to tag you. So whenever
Yes,
there's a
yes.
posting happen, it goes to you.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So due to the time limitation, ma'am, we are winding up with your session, and we will come with the new initiatives, ma'am, for this
Thank you
promotion
so
and for this arbitration. And the session will undoubtedly help businesses to make informed decisions when handling international trade dispute. So with that, I now invite Ms. Swarnalata, ma'am, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Yeah, ma'am, thank you so much. This was really a session that I have enjoyed thoroughly. And I'm sure this is going to give the people a motivation to know and understand the role of arbitration. This is going to be very helpful, in fact, because you have touched the very basic points that people generally ignore. while entering into foreign contracts, trade contracts. So I would say not just for MSMEs or SMEs, it is going to be a very good kind of session for the existing exporters also. They also ignore so much. And of course, because we have spoken about the FTAs, about the US, about so many things.
Yes.
So I'm sure people who are not aware what US is going to do now, they should read about that. They should understand and they should take all the precautionary steps.
Right.
Thank you, ma'am. It was wonderful
So,
session.
yeah,
Thank you.
you know, tomorrow is Women's Day, and I see three powerful women sitting together and chatting on businesses, export businesses, international
Yes.
businesses, international arbitrations. And happy Women's Day to both of you,
Same,
all three
yes,
of us,
same to
in
you, ma'am.
fact.